Welcome to the My House Podcast, a show about the past, present, and future goings-on at the My House Youth Drop-In Center in Wasilla, Alaska, with your host, Michelle Overstreet. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 17 of the My House Podcast. I'm not Michelle Overstreet. I'm Isaac Smolden, and I do have another employee in the studio with me today, and that would be Jay Dagenhart. Jay, how you doing?
Doing well. Great to be here.
We are joined by two very special guests. First, the Assistant Commissioner for the Family and Youth Services Bureau, Assistant Commissioner Kimberly A. Waller. Kimberly, how are you doing?
I am doing great and so excited to be here.
And we are also joined by our Federal Project Officer, Thomas Bonnington. Tom, how are you doing?
Great. This is an awesome place to be.
So you guys are out here for a tour of the building, which we just did. Kimberly, you've been kind of around the state in the last couple days.
Yeah.
So maybe the first thing I'll ask is just as far as the Mat-Su Valley goes, and as far as this building goes, what's different? What's the same? How's it been being in Alaska for the last bit?
Yeah, it's been really great. The scenery is very different than Washington, D.C., and beautiful state, beautiful people. It's been so welcoming. Coming into this building has been, you just kind of walk in and it feels very homey and very welcoming. So I just appreciate that.
Well, I mean, it's been raining the whole time that you're up here too, so you don't. Man, if you're saying that with the weather, it's the way it's been the last couple of weeks, then yeah, that's awesome. Good to hear. How long have you been in your current position?
I started as the Associate Commissioner of the Family and Youth Services Bureau in December of 2021. So not even a year yet, but have just had a great experience with my colleague Tom and others within the Family and Youth Services Bureau. A lot of passionate people that do this work within the federal government, partnering with you all.
How did you get involved in the field?
I started actually in Washington, D.C., working in the Senate for a senator from West Virginia and handled all of his human services work and loved doing legislation and that kind of work, but missed being part of communities. And what I love about this job is that we're doing national work, but I get to do really awesome stuff like this and come to regions and meet people and see what awesome work is being done in programs and service of youth and young people.
Yeah. What about you, Tom? How long have you been where you're at, and what caused you to get into this field?
I've been with the Runaway and Homeless Youth Program for 8 years now. I came from a COC. I was the executive director of a COC, and then I did community actions with adult homeless issues, and just a long and winding trail to get here. But it's just, I absolutely love getting out on the ground and seeing the programs and the people and the services they're providing, and just seeing how the youth that you're serving here, they're so comfortable and engaged here. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you were telling us before that you were on a submarine for 13 years. So it's that seems like a big transition to me. I don't know.
That was a long time ago.
Well, okay, Kimberly, maybe I'll ask you this then. Can you just briefly describe some of the programs that Family and Youth Services Bureau offers to runaway and homeless youth?
Absolutely. So FYSB funds runaway and homeless youth programs that consist of basic center programs, which we call BCP. It's shelter for minors experiencing homelessness or housing instability. The transitional living program, the TLP, which is longer term transitional housing for youth between the ages of 16 and up to 22 and beyond. And the street outreach program, which is one of the programs that's implemented by this fantastic place. And street outreach programs are really designed to connect with young people who are in need of services and may be at risk of experiencing homelessness or currently in crisis.
Yeah, and it's nice that Jay was able to pop in. I mean, Jay, you've been on here before, but can you just again briefly describe your job and kind of what that street outreach program looks like?
Yeah, I oversee our program where we go into the community. I don't have an office here, and that's by design. So I'm out in the public. I work with school nurses. I work with school administration for a lot of our fringe kids who maybe not be in full-fledged homelessness, but are headed in that direction, so we can step in before they get there. If we get students that find themselves by no cause of their own and losing their housing due to parental issues or whatever it is, we can work with them and try to make sure that they have the services that they need. A lot of what we do in the summertime is actually looking for homeless camps. And so we'll go out into the community where either people from the community will call me and tell me where somebody is, or I just go in the woods, literally looking for homeless camps. And then a lot of what Street Outreach does, too, is just partnerships. We partner with a lot of different agencies, and so I partner with drug treatment centers and things like that to make sure that our clients are having a seamless transition from our services to their services.
Awesome. I'll ask all of you guys this question, maybe starting with Tom. Why do you guys do what you do?
Well, actually, when I got out of the Navy, I went to work for Sheriff's Department, and when I saw a revolving system with people that had maybe missed a payment on a traffic ticket, and from that it snowballed into losing their home, divorce. I mean, it became a problem. So it's like I can do better on another side of this than where I'm at. And so from there I went into human services and got on with the community action and worked that for quite a while. And, you know, it's a need that's got to be filled, and there's not a lot of people that want to step up and do it because, you know, Exxon Mobil will pay you $300,000, $400,000 a year, right? We'll never earn that in these fields, but we sleep a lot better.
Jay?
Well, my background, actually, I've been a pastor for the last 21 years, and when I met our executive director, Michelle Overstreet, I just told her, I said, I want my days to matter. And I don't know how many years or days I have left on this earth, but I don't want to get to the end of my life and think it was meaningless. And so with this job, I can, like Tom said, I can rest that knowing what we're doing is a good thing, and I'm not wasting my days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that making sure your days matter is a really good way of living. I've heard just so many conversations with people here at my house, and I think we all agree that young people have so much potential and so much power to create a space in a world that we all really want to be part of. And it's really cool to see what my house is doing to prop that up. And you know, I've focused my career on working with youth and young adults primarily, and really just feel very passionate about making sure that there are pathways forward for whatever young people's dreams are that they want to achieve.
Yeah, you guys, you're up here right now, obviously, but you get to travel all over the country, right? How does the problem of youth and young adult homelessness, how does that take kind of different faces depending on where in the country you are?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, the causes of it actually are oftentimes very similar. It's family conflict, it's lack of resources, and living in a reality of scarcity. And so I think that's something that's common. I think the responses have been, you know, my house, I think, is a really great example of creating a space that's welcoming and open to young people, and it's been great to see other communities do that work too. This looks different than other communities. Alaska has unique needs and unique responses to what young people need, especially, you know, differences between city responses and rural communities, and so it definitely looks different, but there are commonalities, and there are good souls doing this across the entire country.
For sure. How has the Family and Youth Services Bureau adapted their services to new changes in the social services field over maybe even just like the past decade?
I'm going to answer this, and then I'm going to be curious what Tom has to say too, because you've been with FYSB for longer than I have. You know, I see it as being, there's been a very big movement, and I see it here, of lifting up youth voice and lifting up youth collaboration and youth leadership in our own work, not making assumptions that we know what's best for young people, but really helping ourselves lead in partnership with youth with lived experience. And I can absolutely see that here. And it really creates a space that's responsive and what people want to access. So,
Yeah. I'd have to say the one thing, the government is slow with change but deliberate. And over the years, we get input from our grantees who are running programs and from the youth in the programs. And as we incorporate that, we're changing our models or our focuses to meet what's current or what's coming up. And so we're trying to kind of change direction of an ocean liner to meet the needs as they change, because society's changing very rapidly. And so we're trying to keep up with that. But the biggest thing I have noticed out of anything, especially after working with the adult homeless world, is the flexibility and creativity of youth homeless projects is insanely good. I mean, they can change and flex not just weeks or days, but hours. When COVID came around, I saw it literally in hours. They completely changed. And so that's what we're trying to do with our programming so that we can catch up to where you guys are already working.
Yeah. What were some of those changes that you saw at the start of the pandemic? I'm sure that was probably a pretty radical shift for a lot of organizations.
It was two of the biggest things were organizations having to deal with youth fear, and how do they deal with that? At the same time, staff fear. And a lot of staff were fearful and had left their positions, so other staff were working double and triple time. And because of restrictions, they varied throughout states, but the restrictions placed caused the agencies to change their policies. They had to modify their policies, and that was all done within less than a month. They were all flexed to make it work, and they changed their sheltering rules and how they did things, and they reduced capacity so they could maintain the social distancing requirements and stuff. So they were very quick to do that to meet the needs of the youth and still serve.
Yeah. Here's a fun question. What in your opinion, and I'll throw it back to Kimberly, what is the number one thing that the U.S. federal government can do to help the social services field, especially as it relates to youth and young adult homelessness?
Number one thing. I mean, the initial thing that comes to mind is funding.
That's the first thing I was going to say.
I think we are, primarily a funder, and we learn from communities about what communities need and then get out of the way, So that would be my probably response to number one.
Yeah, it's, it would be so awesome if we could fund every agency that asks for money. The need's there. There's not a community in this country that doesn't have a need for youth services. But the reality of it is, obviously, that's not going to happen. And so I think our biggest thing we can do is to be flexible, to try to keep up with societal changes so we can provide funding that flexes the direction you need it to serve your youth best. You have communities in Alaska, it's 3-hour plane flight to get in and out.
Yeah.
That's not something you see in the lower 48. So you have very unique challenges. Fairbanks is 60 below sometimes in the winter. It's Anchorage. There were 3 teenagers mauled a while back by a grizzly in City Park in Anchorage. Okay, when we talk predators, most people think predating on young women or men. Up here, they eat you. They're real predators. They eat you. So there's very unique challenges that we have to try to take into consideration to make our funding usable and as flexible as we can for agencies. And I think that's the biggest thing we need to do is try to keep the flexibility in it.
Jay, you've done work outside of the state as well. Has that given you a little bit of a perspective on some of the unique things that you see even here just in the Mat-Su?
Yeah, because, I was here for 7 years, and we moved back home to Virginia, actually about 3 hours south of D.C., and just really appreciated our community here and the work that we were doing. And when Michelle asked me about coming back, I didn't even hesitate. I didn't like being in Virginia, so I was glad to come back. But it really just made me appreciate what we do here as an organization and just the community that we live in and the being able to be a small piece of the puzzle to hopefully make life better for our young people here.
Well, I don't want to take too much of your guys' time because everyone in this room right now is very busy, probably with the exception of me, actually. But everyone else has work to do for the rest of the day. So, and we've kind of already touched on it, but maybe just sticking with Jay and then going back around, I'll ask you all one more question. What keeps your passion alive in this field? What keeps you from getting burnt out and makes you come back into work every day?
It happened yesterday. I was walking through the boutique and I saw this young girl, and I knew her. I couldn't think of her name right away. And she stopped me and she said, "You're Jay, right?" And I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Just remind me who you were." She goes, "Oh, I was a client here like 8 years ago." And she said, I said, "How are you doing?" She goes, "I'm great." She was just in town for her grandfather's funeral. But she is now working full time. She's married. She's got a child. And she said, "I would like to move back to Alaska and come to work for you guys." She said, "I got my stuff together because you guys helped us. You put me into housing and you gave me a chance." And so when I hear something like that, all the 50-hour weeks and things like that, I forget about those things. And it just motivates you to know, again, that you're not wasting your days and these things matter and these kids matter.
Tom?
It's kind of twofold. Personal drive to see people not be suffering and stuff is a big part of it. But when we come on site, or at least myself, when I speak with the staff, it very much energizes me because of the amount of energy and passion staff has. And the biggest difference staff have in the youth world is they have hopefulness for their clients. They believe in them. And when I get to talk to the youth, that's just everything. It's awesome to be able to talk to these young people and see what they're doing and how they're doing and where they came from. And until we don't have those stories anymore, we need to just keep plugging along as best we know how.
Yeah. Kimberly?
Yeah, second what Tom said for sure, which is meeting people doing the work on the ground day to day. It's incredible to see the pride that everybody has and exactly what Tom mentioned, the hope that we all share. And then I think for me as well, seeing and hearing from young people and their experiences and of course, challenges exist, but there is so much hope and there is so much future. In my prior job before joining in this role, I had the great opportunity to work directly with youth action boards and have seen so many of those young people succeed in future careers, and it's really awesome to see. So it's been a joy to see that happening across the country and looking forward to more.
Well, again, thank you for all the work that all three of you guys do, but also for being here and meeting with our staff and our clients. It was super awesome to have you in the building today and fun to sit down for this. So thank you all for what you do.
Well, thank you guys.
That is all the time that we have for today. I'd like to thank Kimberly, Tom, and Jay for being here. The My House podcast is recorded at the My House studio in Wasilla, Alaska. Our producer and editor is Isaac Smolden. And for Michelle Overstreet, until next time.